My name is Amelia. I am 34 years old. I live in a small town in Ohio. I have one child. His name is Johnny. He is 14 years old. I raised Johnny alone. His father left before he was born. I have not seen him since. He never called. He never sent money. He never asked about Johnny. When I found out I was pregnant, I was scared. I was only 20. I had no job. I lived with my mother. She said, "You can stay here, but life will be hard." I said, "I will try my best," and I did. I found work at a factory near our town. It was hard work. I had to stand all day. My hands hurt, my feet hurt, but I did not stop. I needed money for diapers, food, and baby clothes. When Johnny was born, I held him in my arms and cried. He was small and soft. I looked at his tiny face and thought, I will give him everything. I did not care about sleep. I did not care about fun. I only cared about Johnny. I woke up early. I fed him. I changed his clothes. I rocked him to sleep. I worked during the day. I held him at night. I was tired, but I kept going. When Johnny turned 5, I moved into a small apartment. It was not big, but it was ours. There was one bedroom, a small kitchen, and a table with 2 chairs. Johnny liked to sit near the window and look at the sky. He asked me, "Where is my dad?" I said, "He is not here." He looked at me and said, "Will he come back?" I shook my head. "No, sweetheart, he is not coming back." Johnny was quiet for a while. Then he said, "It's okay. I have you." Those words stayed in my heart. As Johnny grew older, life got harder. School was not easy for him. He did not like to read. He did not like to write. I helped him every night. I sat with him at the table. I read with him. I asked him questions. He would say, "I don't get it," and throw his pencil on the floor. I stayed calm. I picked it up and said, "Let's try again." At work, I did not ask for time off. I worked weekends. I took night shifts. I missed birthday parties and family dinners. I could not go out with friends. They stopped calling, but I did not care. Johnny came first. One year, he wanted a red bike for his birthday. It was expensive. I saved for 4 months. I did not buy coffee. I did not take the bus. I walked to work every day. On his birthday, I gave him the bike. His eyes got big. He said, "Is this really mine?" I smiled. "Yes, it's yours." He hugged me. "You're the best mom." That moment made it all worth it. When Johnny started middle school, things began to change. He made new friends. He wanted to be like them. He said, "Why don't we have a big house?" I said, "Because we can't afford it." He said, "Other kids have new clothes. I wear the same jeans every week." I felt a small pain in my chest. I said, "We have what we need." But he didn't look happy. He stopped talking to me like before. He closed his door. He listened to music for hours. At dinner, he was quiet. I asked, "How was school?" He said, "Fine." One day, he came home angry. He said, "I hate this place. I hate this life." I asked, "What happened?" He shouted, "You never gave me anything good. We're always poor." My friends laugh at me. I was quiet. I did not know what to say. I stood still. Then I said, "I gave you everything I could." He said, "That's not enough," and went to his room. That night, I sat alone at the table. I did not eat. I looked at the empty chair across from me and thought about all the days I walked in the cold, all the nights I worked late, all the birthdays I spent alone. I felt like crying, but no tears came. The next day, I made breakfast. I put toast and eggs on his plate. He did not come out. I knocked on his door. "Johnny, breakfast is ready." No answer. I left the food and went to work. At work, I could not think. My head hurt. My chest felt heavy. I asked myself, did I do something wrong? When I came home, Johnny was watching TV. I sat next to him. He did not look at me. I said, "Johnny, I know life is not easy, but I did my best." He said, "Your best is not good enough." Then he walked away. My heart broke a little that day. I stayed up late that night. I sat by the window and looked outside. The streets were quiet. The sky was dark. I whispered, "I gave you my youth. I gave you my dreams. I gave you my life." But he did not know that. He only saw what we didn't have, not what I gave up. The next week, I got a call from his school. He was in a fight. I left work early. The teacher said he pushed another boy. They were saying mean things. I looked at Johnny. He did not speak. On the way home, I asked, "Why did you do that?" He said, "They said I don't have a dad. They said we're poor." I got mad. I said, "Fighting won't help." He said, "What will help? You don't get it." I looked at him and said, "You're right. I don't get what it feels like to grow up without a father, but I know what it feels like to raise a child alone." He looked out the window. He did not say a word. That night, he went to bed early. I cleaned the kitchen. I washed the dishes. I sat down and looked at a photo of him as a baby. He was smiling. I touched the picture and whispered, "I'm still here." The next morning, Johnny left for school without saying a word. I looked at the door after it closed. The house felt cold. I made coffee and sat at the table. I felt tired, not my body, but my heart. I thought, is this how it will be now? Just silence. At work, I tried to smile. I packed boxes. I answered the phone. I helped customers. But my mind stayed on Johnny. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking into the dark, but maybe someone is out there listening. If you are, please say hello or where are you listening from in the comments. It would mean a lot to me. After school, I came home first. I cooked his favorite food, pasta with cheese. I placed it on the table. I waited. When Johnny came in, he saw the food and said, "Thanks." He sat and ate. Still no smile. Still no talk. I asked, "Did anything happen today?" He said, "No." I said, "Okay." We sat there, two people, one table, so much space between us. Later, I looked through some old photos. One showed Johnny at 3 years old. He wore a red jacket. He held a toy car. He was laughing. I smiled. That boy felt so far away now. Time went on. Some days were better. Some were worse. One Saturday, I asked him, "Do you want to go for a walk?" He said, "No." I said, "It's nice outside." He said, "I'm busy." Busy with what? I did not ask. I just walked alone. That evening, I saw him on his phone. He smiled at something on the screen. I sat next to him and asked, "Who are you texting?" He pulled the phone away and said, "No one." I said, "You look happy." He said, "Can I have some space?" I stood up and said, "Sure." That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I felt something in my chest, not pain, not anger, just empty. I missed being close to him. I missed when he used to hug me, when he used to say, "You're my hero, Mom." I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. The next week, he needed shoes for school. I looked at my bank account. It was low. I had just paid rent and bills. I had $40 left. The shoes cost $55. I said to myself, "It's okay. I will eat less this week." I bought the shoes. When I gave them to him, he looked surprised. "Thanks," he said. I smiled. "I hope they fit," he said. "Yeah, they're cool." For the first time in weeks, I saw a small smile. That night, he left his room and said, "Mom, Do you have a minute? I said, Of course. He sat down. There's something I want to say. I waited. He looked down. I was hard on you. I said nothing. I let him speak. He said, I get mad sometimes. When I see other kids with more, I feel small. I said, I understand. He said, but it's not your fault. You work hard. I know you do. I felt tears in my eyes. I held his hand and said, Thank you. He looked at me and said, I don't say it enough, but I'm glad you're my mom. I smiled and pulled him into a hug. It was short, but it meant the world. After that day, things got better, not perfect, but better. He still had his moods. He still stayed in his room a lot, but he said, Thank you more. He helped me wash dishes. He even asked how my day was once. One evening, I came home late. He had cooked rice and eggs. He said, It's not much, but I wanted to help. I laughed and said, It's perfect. I sat down and ate. It was simple, but it felt like a feast. Another time, we watched a movie together. He picked it. It was about a single mom and her son. At one point, the mom in the movie cried. The son hugged her and said, You do everything for me. You're strong. I looked at Johnny. He looked at the screen. After the movie, he said, That mom reminds me of you. I smiled and said, That means a lot. He nodded. I mean it. One day he asked me, Why did Dad leave? I said, He wasn't ready to be a father. He asked, Did you love him? I said, At the time, yes. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, Do you hate him now? I thought for a second and said, No, I just feel sorry for him. He missed so much. Johnny looked down. Yeah, he did. Later that night, I heard him talking to someone on the phone. He said, Yeah, it's just me and my mom. She raised me alone. She's cool, though. I smiled from the hallway. A few months later, Johnny got a part-time job after school. He said, I want to help you. I said, That's not your job. Your job is school. He said, I can do both. He worked 2 days a week at a small shop. He bought his own school bag. He bought me a small plant for the kitchen. He said, You like green things. I hugged him and said, Thank you. I placed the plant near the window. One Sunday, he said, Mom, can we go out? Just us? I said, Of course. We went to the park. We all walked slowly. We talked. He said, I know I was rude before. I said, You were angry. I understand. He said, You gave up a lot for me. I looked at him and said, "I'd do it all again." He stopped walking and looked at me. Even if I didn't say thank you, I smiled. Yes, he hugged me in the middle of the park, in front of everyone. I didn't care who saw. My heart was full. As we walked home, he said, "One day, I want to make your life better." I said, "You already do." Johnny kept working after school. He came home tired but proud. He didn't complain. He gave part of his pay to help with groceries. I said, "You don't have to." He said, "I want to." I saw him change. He was no longer a boy. He was growing into a young man. He became more careful, more quiet, more kind. One evening, I sat on the sofa with a small photo album. Johnny sat beside me. He said, "I've never seen this." I opened it. The first photo was of him as a baby, wrapped in a yellow blanket. "You were 1 day old," I said. He looked at the photo and smiled. "I look so small." I turned the page. "This was your first day of school." He laughed. "That haircut. What were you thinking?" I smiled. I tried my best. We laughed together. It felt nice. Later, he asked, "Did you ever want to do something else, like travel or study?" I looked at him and said, "I had dreams, but I had you, and you became my dream." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm sorry for the way I acted before. I didn't understand." I touched his hand. "It's okay. You do now." Johnny worked hard at school. He studied at night. He read more. His grades got better. He wanted to go to college one day. I said, "It won't be easy. We don't have much." He said, "I'll get a scholarship. I'll apply for help. I'll do whatever it takes." I believed him. He started spending time at the library. He joined study groups. He asked teachers for help. He stopped wasting time on games or useless things. One day, he came home with a letter. "Mom," he said, "read this." I opened it. My hands shook. It was from a college, a good one. It said he got a full scholarship. I looked at him. "Is this real?" He smiled. "It's real." I hugged him tight. I cried a little, not because I was sad, but because I was proud. That night, we celebrated with pizza, just the two of us. We sat on the floor and laughed. "You did it," I said. "No," he said. "We did it." He started college that fall. The house felt empty without him. I missed his voice, his mess, even his late night snacks. He called me every evening. "How was your day, Mom?" he asked. I told him about work, the weather, and small things. He listened. One weekend, he came home. He brought laundry and stories from school. We cooked together and watched old movies. Before leaving, he said, "I want to show you something." He opened his backpack and took out a paper. It was a short essay. He said, "It's for my class." We had to write about someone we admire. I read the first line. "My hero is my mother. She raised me alone. She gave up her dreams so I could have mine." Tears filled my eyes. He said, "Do you like it?" I nodded. "I love it." He hugged me. "It's all true." That moment felt like a gift. Years passed. Johnny finished college. He found a job in the city. He worked hard. He saved money. He called me every week. One day, he came home with news. "I found a small house for you," he said. "You don't have to rent anymore." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "I bought it. It's yours." I covered my mouth. I couldn't speak. He said, "You always said we needed our own home. Now we do." I cried. I didn't try to stop the tears. He gave me the keys. "Come see it." The house was small, but lovely. It had a garden, a sunny kitchen, a soft bed. It felt like peace. "This is too much," I said. "No," he said. "It's not enough for what you gave me." That night, I walked through each room. I touched the walls. I smiled at the silence. I felt safe. I felt proud. He stayed the night, and in the morning, we drank tea in the garden. He said, "One day, when I have kids, I'll tell them about you." I said, "What will you tell them?" He looked at me. "That you were strong, that you never gave up, that you loved me more than anything." I smiled. "That's true." He looked at me again. "And that I blamed you once, but I was wrong." I held his hand. "You were young," he said, "but I remember now everything you did, every small thing, every big thing." I said, "That's all I ever wanted." The sun rose higher. Birds sang in the trees. We sat in the quiet and watched the sky. My heart was full. I gave up everything for my child. And in the end, he gave it all back with love. I hope my story stayed with you. Like and comment if you want to hear more soon.